Welcome to this week's update of End Time Signs and the Headlines, brought to you by the Light of Life Ministry. Today's date is Sunday, August 3rd, 2014. Breaking news: Ebola biokits have been deployed to National Guard units in all 50 states, according to a Committee on Armed Services report. According to the government document that was created in April to address mounting concerns that the Ebola hemorrhagic fever virus could spread outside of Africa. The possible Ebola kits are reportedly designed for low-probability, high-consequence scenarios. Department of Defense Chemical and Biological Defense Executive Officer Carmen J. Spencer said the biosystems are rapid, reliable, and provide simultaneous identification of specific biological agents and pathogens. Approximately 340 Joint Biological Agent Identification and Diagnostic System units have reportedly been given to emergency response personnel. BioFair Diagnostics, the manufacturer of these kits, said that the Ebola kits are able to detect a host of infectious disease targets, including ricin, the plague, anthrax, and several forms of influenza. The Ebola biokits given to National Guard units reportedly also include hemorrhagic fever detection capabilities, which give the military the ability to identify possible infection in as little as 30 minutes. The Ebola report was not available for publication until the document was officially released by the Committee on Armed Services. Deadly, nearly untreatable superbugs known as CRE, dubbed nightmare bacteria, have spread at an alarming rate throughout the southeastern region of the U.S. in recent years, new research indicates. Researchers at Duke University Medical Center have found cases of antibiotic-resistant CRE increased by at least a factor of 5 in community hospitals across the region from 2008 to 2012. We're trying to sound the alarm. This is a problem for all of us in healthcare, said Deverick J. Anderson, lead author of the study and associate professor of medicine at Duke, according to USA Today. These bacteria are just about as bad as it gets. CRE are a family of bacteria that live in one's guts, often without creating illnesses. Yet when the bacteria escape during ICU treatment, for example, they often cause major hospital-induced infections. 1 in 25 hospitalized patients contract at least one healthcare-related infection on any given day, according to the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. The bacteria prey mostly on vulnerable hospitalized patients, killing nearly half of those who catch the bloodstream infections. As the Ebola outbreak continues to cause concern, President Barack Obama has signed an amendment to an executive order that would allow him to mandate the apprehension and detention of Americans who merely show signs of respiratory illness. The executive order, titled Revised List of Quarantinable Communicable Diseases, amends Executive Order 13295, passed by George W. Bush in April 2003, which allows for the apprehension, detention, or conditional release of individuals to prevent the introduction, transmission, or spread of suspected communicable diseases. The amendment signed by Obama places subsection B of the original Bush executive order, which referred only to SARS. Obama's amendment allows for the detention of Americans who display severe acute respiratory syndrome, which are diseases that are associated with fever and signs and symptoms of pneumonia or other respiratory illnesses, are capable of being transmitted from person to person, and that either are causing or have the potential to cause a pandemic or, upon infection, are highly likely to cause mortality or serious morbidity if not properly controlled. Although Ebola was listed on the original executive order signed by Bush, Obama's amendment ensures that Americans who merely show signs of respiratory illness, with the exception of influenza, can be forcibly detained by medical authorities. Although the quarantining of people suspected of being infected with the Ebola virus seems like a perfectly logical move, the actual preconditions for this happen aren't restricted to just those suffering with the disease. As we highlighted earlier this week, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention has measures in place for dealing with an outbreak of communicable disease which allow for the quarantine of well persons who do not show symptoms of the disease. In addition, under the Model State Emergency Health Powers Act, public health authorities and governors who would be given expanded police powers to seize control of communications devices, public and private property, as well as a host of other draconian measures in the event of a public health emergency. When the legislation was introduced, the Association of American Physicians and Surgeons warned that it could turn governors into dictators. Yesterday, it was reported that Emory University Hospital in Atlanta was set to receive a patient infected with Ebola. A hospital in Germany also accepted an infected patient earlier this week. Some critics have raised concerns about the risk of deliberately importing infected individuals into the West. It's completely unprecedented for any government to take in a person affected by a contagious disease unknown to that country. However, both the United States and Germany have now brought Ebola patients inside their countries, and the patient brought to the U.S. was admitted to a hospital with only moderate security, making it easier for Ebola to spread outside the medical facility. The U.S. government and its political system could not care less about the health of individual Americans, and to bring Ebola into America is a disaster in the making, of which only the government will benefit through its power grab in response to the health crisis it created. Be sure to check out the video that is at our blog, endtimesigns.wordpress.com, that gives more details on this. Just a week into the methane sampling program, and Arctic expedition scientists have discovered vast methane plumes escaping from the seafloor of the Laptev continental slope. These early glimpses of what may be in store for a warming Arctic Ocean could help scientists project the future releases of the strong greenhouse gas methane from the Arctic Ocean, their press release states. The reason I'm sharing this with you is because it also ties in with what has been seen at the Yellowstone lately with high levels of methane detected. And recently, Russian scientists have determined that a massive crater discovered in a remote part of Siberia was probably caused by thawing permafrost. The crater is in the Yamal Peninsula, which means end of the world. It caught hold of the media spotlight in mid-July when it was spotted by oil and gas workers flying over the area. At roughly 200 feet wide and seemingly bottomless, speculation abounded that the cause of the Siberian Times reporting that theories range from meteorites, stray missiles, a man-made prank, and aliens to an explosive cocktail of methane or shale gas suddenly exploding. Since the first discovery, 2 other smaller craters have been spotted in surrounding regions, fueling even more armchair conjecture. Russian scientists sent out to the site are now providing first-hand data showing that unusually high concentrations of methane of up to 9.6% were present at the bottom of the first large crater shortly after it was discovered on July 16th. Currently, a once unthinkable crisis in the world's greatest freshwater region, one that sent more than 500,000 Metro Toledo residents scrambling for bottled water Saturday, enters its second day today, with officials inside the city's Collins Park water treatment plant wondering how much longer it will take before clean, safe, and reliable tap water will flow again from faucets of area homes and businesses. We've been getting mixed results, Jeff Martin, a senior chemist at the plant, confessed during an exclusive interview with The Blade on Saturday while performing tests for microcystin, a toxin produced by the harmful blue-green algae known as microcystis, inside the plant's laboratory on samples drawn from 39 Metro Toledo sites. The cause of the microcystis algae bloom is primarily phosphorus from farm fertilizer runoff, and the amount of phosphorus determines the bloom size. Scientists are also learning that another farm fertilizer, nitrogen, affects the size and composition of the annual bloom. Toledo sits on the shoreline of the Great Lakes, which holds 20% of the world's fresh surface water. A small water treatment plant in Ottawa County's Carroll Township was Ohio's first to be overwhelmed by the toxin last September. Until 2 a.m. Saturday, city and state of environmental officials maintained such a crisis was unlikely in Toledo because the water plant is Western Lake Erie's largest and most sophisticated. But after seeing symptoms of a problem emerge late Friday, a series of suspicious test results that showed a pattern of contamination, officials were told by the Ohio Environmental Protection Agency to issue the city's first do not drink or boil warning to the system's customers. The warning went out on Facebook, followed by a series of news conferences. Toledo Mayor D. Michael Collins says he was notified about 10 p.m. Friday that the numbers weren't good, even though the algae season has already begun. At about midnight, he heard of Ohio's EPA's plans to issue a warning against the drinking water. "I don't believe we'll ever be back to normal," the mayor said at an evening news conference, "but this is not going to be our new normal. We're going to fix this. Our city is not going to be abandoned." I guess time will tell. Over 220 people were killed and 1,400 injured after an earthquake measuring from 6.1 to 6.5, according to different estimates, toppled buildings in Chinese Yunnan province. The majority of the dead were from Ludian County, which Chinese state television said was at the epicenter of the quake. At least 1,300 people, also from the county, have been injured and 181 remain missing, Yunnan's Information Bureau reported. The province's seismological bureau said that another 49 people died and 102 were injured in another county. The U.S. Geological Survey was estimated that the quake at 6.1 on the Richter scale, while previously reporting the strikes measuring 6.3. At the same time, the China Earthquake Network Center said the magnitude was 6.5. The quake struck 11 kilometers west-northwest of the town Wenping at a relatively shallow depth of 10 kilometers, according to the USGS. There are mass dead fish phenomenon reported at all coastlines of the U.S. Just to go over a few of the stories, mass dead fish phenomenon reported in California, Oregon, Chesapeake Bay, and the Gulf of Mexico. Millions of dead fish close the harbor in California, as millions of dead anchovies shut down boat ramps in Santa Cruz, California harbor. Also, there have been thousands of dead fish, termed anchovies, have resulted in the stinking of the Nicanicum River. These fish died while swimming upriver on 28th of July in Seaside, Oregon. Civilian reports of thousands of dead fish in the northeastern part of the Gulf of Mexico. And fishermen find thousands of dead fish in Chesapeake Bay. 7 volcanoes, each in different countries, all start erupting within hours of each other. A new island has appeared in the Pacific. A submarine eruption just off Nishinoshima Island, Japan, has erupted for the first time in 40 years. The Japanese Navy noticed the explosions as boiling lava met seawater, giving rise to the plumes of steam and ash. Almost 7,000 miles away in Mexico, the Colima volcano blew its top after a period of relative calm. A steam and ash cloud rose 2 miles into the sky, and the grumbling of the mountain could be heard in towns a few miles away. In Guatemala, the Fire Mountain belched out lava and sent up a moderate ash cloud, causing an ash fall over nearby towns. The explosions and shock waves occurring in the volcano can be felt by residents over 6 miles away. Doors and windows are reported to be rattling, but there's been no damage so far. In Vanuatu, the Yasur volcano is giving some cause for concern. Although the explosions are quite weak, the continuous ash that is coming from the mountain is starting to build up on farming land. Still in Indonesia, but on the island of Java this time, Mount Merapi exploded yesterday. Hundreds of people were killed when it last erupted in 2010. There is no news of casualties at this point. And lastly, a UFO was seen hovering over a neighbor's home in Lewistown, Pennsylvania. A Pennsylvania witness in Lewistown reported watching a silvery blue disc shape hovering right above her neighbor's roof at about 1 a.m. on July 28, 2014, according to testimony in case 58468 from the Mutual UFO Network, also known as MUFON, Witnesses Reporting Database. The witness had just stepped outside with her dog when the animal ran off, and she heard a neighbor's dog inside a pen whimpering and then looked up and noticed the object. Only way for me to describe it was it looked like energy, the witness stated. It wasn't solid, but not translucent either. I wasn't sure what I was seeing, whether it was from this universe or spiritual. If I wasn't paralyzed from fear, I would have enjoyed the beauty more. The object quickly moved away. Within 5 or so seconds it dispersed. I felt an energy go through my body. I honestly don't know for a few minutes if I was dead or alive. I didn't feel any pain, just warmth. Logically, I thought maybe I had somehow got struck by lightning. It looked nothing like lightning, though, and I had no pain, burns, anything outwardly different at all that I could tell. The object appeared nearby. A few minutes later, I saw it up higher and farther away. I never saw it move from point A to point B, though. After it took off, it was out of sight until I saw it reappear those few moments later. The size of the object was large from the witness's point of view. I would describe the size that first time I saw it as around the size of a diameter of the diameter of our above-ground pool, so around 20 to 24 feet. That's an estimate. I was closer to the ground than it was, but saw it from the side, not underneath. I saw no craft, only blue energy. Lewistown is a borough in and the county seat of Mifflin County, Pennsylvania, population 8,338. Pennsylvania MUFON is investigating. Pennsylvania has a current UFO rating of 3 with a high number of recent reports nationally. Pennsylvania had 26 UFO reports in June 2014, the 7th highest reporting state, while California had 107 as the highest reporting state. The above quotes were edited for clarity. Please report UFO activity to MUFON.com. And that's it for this week's report on end time signs in the headlines. Again, be sure to visit us at endtimesigns.wordpress.com and click on our link. Join us on Facebook too, and you'll receive updates on a daily basis via your wall. Be sure to share it with your friends, as not everyone is getting the information that they need in order to recognize the end time signs in the headlines, and we're happy to help by spreading the news. Thanks, and have a great week.